Good job. One moment, please. Okay, that's better. So what I'll do is, remember the last time, you know what we're doing? We're doing Precept 11, and we're still on the second aspect of Precept 11, which is relationships. We already did life force control, sexual impulse control. And although it was only one lecture on that, there's a lot there. And we're taking our time with relationships because it's one of the most intensive and pressing aspects of modern practitioners, the life of modern practitioners, and of modern humans in general. So I want to show you a photograph that I wasn't able to show you the last time, but I have it here. And then we'll go to some special places after that. Here's a palace of Tutankhamun from a different vantage point. The previous vantage point last week was we were on this side. So I walked around here, walked down, came around here, and stood now at the sort of like the base, but you can see it's the boundary, it's still beyond the palace walls. And you can see how vast, how much space it takes up. A few acres at least. And this is where Tutankhamun lived and performed rituals, etc., with his wife and daughters. Here's the worship area we spoke about last time. Okay. Now we'll come out of here and we'll go to the tomb of Enherka at the where the village of the workers are, the people who worked on the tombs in the Valley of the Kings live, and these are tombs nearby the village where the people live. There are tombs there, and if you go to the tourists, you can, if you're aware of these places, you can go in them. And here's what's important for our discussion is this one, this panel segment. And you can see Enherka and the wife, and they're sitting on special chairs. These are lioness, sort of lion power, meaning serpent power. They're sitting on the serpent power. They're sitting on the power of the fire that dispels, or the power that dispels ignorance. So they're sitting on that sort of the energy of Sekhmet. And you can see them, they are in a ritual. These priests are performing libation. It's a purification ritual. And he's also holding a libation vessel. See, this is a libation vessel. And the priest in front, he's the Sam priest. He's orchestrating the whole ritual. And he's pouring a libation, but he's also burning incense to them. So they're being sensed, they're being libated. But they're also they're also being venerated. And you have a row of priests that are doing it. And you see these four back here. You see one is red and one is yellowish white. This is not how the people look in ancient times. These two colors are mystically related. So the colors of the skin of the people are idealized. They're not really this color. It's talking about the function and the process of the libation. Whereas the color of these people are consistent throughout. We see here is a little darker. So the colors are sometimes the colors of the skin are how they look, and sometimes they're idealized. You have to know what context in which they're being presented, because all of this is metaphor. But you can see his arm is wrapped around her. And you can see her hand is in his hand. So his hand is around her and they're sort of like holding hands. While in the ritual, and this is a metaphoric gesture of companionship, of common interest, of support. You can see her arm is also wrapped around his shoulder and her hand is on his shoulder. You can see the libation. He's also libating himself. This is an internal purity. So this is a ritual of purity. And you can see the tenderness with which they are together. The tenderness, the love, the affection, the kind of support. You can see his body is leaning back. So he's sort of leaning on her. So she's the one that's in support. But she's also the one who has this kind of affection for the other. You can see they're wearing their white garments. So it's an actual ritual. The red is the dynamic movement power of the ritual. And the white is the purity, the purity of the ritual and the purity that the ritual bestows or causes to occur. So the priests are working through these forces. They're projecting these forces. And you can see the tenderness with which they are together. Now we'll go to another one. And this is from the tomb of Senut in the same area. Senutim. And you can see on the far left is being the priest is presenting a vessel or a grease cone on the top of his head. So he's being crowned with the grease cone, which represents the anointing of spirit. And here, this is a very special aspect of the panel that we will discuss briefly. And the far one, you can see him with his consort. He has a grease cone on his head. And they have a teenage daughter and a young daughter. With them. He's holding a second scepter. So he's retaining life force energy, life force power. And you can see his consort, how she is, again, she's holding him. This is a different person around his shoulder. And she has her left hand around the bicep area, the arm area of the other hand. So again, she's supporting and overseeing, but she's part of the ritual too, meaning that whatever is occurring in the ritual, it's not only a ritual for him, it's a ritual for both of them. And she's in support of that. You can see how tender she has her hands wrapped around him. And she continues, and here's the Sem priest. We know there the Sem priest wears the leopard skin, and he's pouring libation. So it's a ritual purity, as well as venerating the status of the initiate. So maintaining purity and purifying oneself and achieving high states of spiritual realization while still being a householder, while still being a father and a mother to these two girls. You can see that she has the grease cone as well. So they're both, the ritual is for both of them. So life is to be based on spiritual values. If you want to have a spiritual relationship, a relationship that has meaning, and a relationship that elevates you, it has to be based on purity and the pursuit of higher consciousness. So that there must be spiritual values and not the value of, just having children and building a house and getting a big bank account. You're not building in that way, you're building in a spiritual way. And you can see he's holding the life force energy. So during the ritual, he not having thoughts of sex or, being with my my partner or anything like that. So maintaining the higher consciousness while in the ritual. And as is shown by Akhenaten in day-to-day life. Now here, there's another ritual that's occurring, and you can see the wife, again, the partner, how she has her hands and her arms wrapped around him in a very tender manner. And she's back here sniffing his ear. So very tender, very loving, very affectionate. And it says here, Asar, Beat, M, and M, As. So Asar, the royal, by way of this position on this throne, and that's referring to him. You can see there's damage here. Either it got knocked out or it fell off or whatever. And this, so this inscription is relating to this person. And now this inscription is relating to what he is doing as the officiating priest. And it says, An Enen Ke Shu. An Enen Ke Shu Mu Asar Fa. So brought to you the ear, the process of ear, of breath, of the flow of breath, or the flow of air. And you can see, if his face was here, the symbol for Shu, which is a mask with a sail on it, is being projecting into the face, the nostril area. So the breath is being, you know how it is when wind hits a sail. The sail has to resist the wind for the boat to move. Therefore, in a sense, the sail captures the wind and uses the power of the wind. So it's just be using the power of the breath, the power of air. And that's helping with the movement of the spiritual movement. And he's saying that this air is an unformed aspect of this Asar. So, meaning a subtle aspect of Asar. So not the greenery outside with the trees and the plants and the wheat. It's more subtle. It's what's within the air itself, the essence of the air. So you're essentially breathing in Asar. And he's doing that in the presence of the partner. So going through the spiritual process while in the presence of the partner. So the partnership, the relationship should not detract from the spiritual evolutionary process of a human being. So if you're in a relationship and the relationship does not support your spiritual life, The problem is not with the spiritual life. The problem is with the relationship. So what in the relationship needs to be fixed to support your spiritual life? If 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 your mundane life is impeding your spiritual work, your spiritual discipline, your spiritual growth, it's not the fault of the teaching. It's what is going on in the relationship that's causing it to be an impeding factor in your spiritual evolution. And then for those issues, you have to take counseling. You have to talk to people who are higher than you on the path. You have to talk to priests, to priestesses, to preceptors, etc. And then if you're not in a relationship and you want to be in a relationship, what kind of relationship are you getting into? You're just going to grab onto someone because of how they look or whatever, or how they make you feel. But once you're in the throes of the relationship with them, are they going to allow you to breathe in the teaching, to breathe in the essence of the teaching, to breathe in the purity of the teaching for your continued spiritual growth? So don't just jump into anything just for the sake of it. You know, it has to be based on spiritual values. Any relationship like that, interpersonal relationship, should be based on spiritual values. And we're juxtaposing that against what we spoke about last week, the medieval troubadour idea of the person-to-person love for loving the person. But in that sense, you're ascertaining, or you're loving a material entity and her beauty or his handsomeness or whatever. But I guess you're caught in the whirl of time. And if you're breathing in air, you're being released from time. You're actually transcending time. And so if you're caught in the romantic idea, it's going to be impeding the relationship. Is not going to work for your spiritual progress. Your relationship may not even work for you for your progress as a human being. And we know that because of the amount of divorce in Western society, Western culture. And you don't have this kind of teaching and iconography in Western culture. You go to the altar, you get married, and that could be the end of it for any contact with anything religious. So you don't see that the kind of iconography of the man and the woman in the presence of the priest for spiritual evolution. What you see is the man and the woman in the presence of the priest for coming together, for being married. What you have here is the man and the woman in the presence of the priest for spiritual evolution. Not to be in a relationship, but to transcend the relationship. If you're breathing in air, you're going beyond duality. And that's why you have to retain your life force. Here's one more. This is more of a naturalistic style. This is how the people actually look. And you know, because they're not working with the interplay of the colors of red and yellow. Everyone is around the same. And now the next one is the we're going to see them here. Now you're going to see idealized now. It's the same tomb, same person. And you can see the goddess is yellowish. And this is goddess Nut. It tells us here who she is. Nut. Earth. So the great Nut. And here they are again, the same two. And you can see they are reddish. So again, here they're playing with the interplay of the dynamics of the colors and how they work together. So this means that they are moving towards the goddess. It's an active, dynamic movement towards the goddess. And they maintain their status of being anointed. You know, her with the adding of the lotus, which is kind of a, you know, a feminine. You know how women are with they put the flowers in their hair or whatever. So she has a grease comb, but she adds a little lotus in that kind of feminine energy. But the lotus has vast implications, spiritual implications. It means arising out of the lower mind, out of the muddy waters of the lower mind, being untouched by lower mind and arising in higher consciousness. So in other words, this lady is no joke. And here they are, partners again. And the reason why they can do idealized colors with this one is because this lady is an actual, this personality is an actual divinity. So you have to look closely to see what mechanics are being used. And Goddess Nut is actually the tree. So she's the tree of life, the tree of the power of life and of higher consciousness. And they're both going to her. And she is anointing them. And she is libating them. So more purity. Though when you're in a relationship with someone, the idea is for ritual and metaphysical purity. You have to be purifying from the relationship. Because like was said the last time, a human relationship, man and woman relationship, is not an ideal situation for a human being. It is something that human beings do because of human proclivities. So you have to be purifying yourself from the act of relationship, which is purifying yourself from the act of human nature, because you're not, essentially, you're not a human being. You can act human, you can be a good human, but essentially you are a divinity. And further than that, you are the divine, full stop. So ritual cleansing and purity, and they're doing it together. He's not over here trying to purify himself, and she's over here saying, you know, I want my bling, where's my engagement ring, where's the cars, where's the nice clothes for the children. She's not doing that. And neither is he doing that to her. You know, I want you to be my wife. You have to be barefoot and pregnant. You have to be in the bedroom all the time. You know, I don't want you, just work and, let's build with wealth. And he's not doing that. They are together purifying themselves. And again, the relationship is based upon spiritual values, a spiritual way of life, and turning away jointly together, turning away from the world. N, Ka, Asar, Beat, M, A, Ash, M, As. So for the Ka of this Asar, the royal who is in the position of the throne. So this is being done for the spiritual body, the Ka. Is being done for the mind. This ritual purity is purifying the mind, purifying the forces of the astral body. And if you're following the Amdua class, if you're in the Amdua class, you know that that purification of mind has great implications for transcending the physical plane of existence. So the mind is being purified so that a deeper, higher reality can be discovered. And here it says Sheps Makiru, so Sheps, the noble who is enlightened. And it's not only him, it's both of them together in the manner of ritual cleansing and purity. And not only ritual cleansing, but also a profound metaphysical cleansing of purity of mind. So they came together, they had their kids, and now they're growing in a profound spiritual way because they have chosen to live a life of spiritual values together. And that's the highest relationship, the highest partnership you can have with another human being. When that is the understanding of what life is for, what life is about, what life is to be lived for, then you can have a true spiritual relationship, a true spiritual partnership with the other, a true spiritual friendship. Because it's not based on the mundane, it's not based on the pelvic basin. It's based in the upper four psychospiritual energy centers, and you're transcending the lower three. So you're transcending spiritual laziness, indiscriminate sexuality, and egoism. You're going beyond those to discover what it truly means, what love truly means, which starts at the fourth, which starts at the heart. That means the love of God, love of the divine. Amasu in panete, Seaukesu ementem panete. How do anuma ketipa, how to give thyself to God, keep thou thyself daily for God, and let tomorrow be as today. And in doing so, you develop a transcendental love, whereas you are loving the divine of the divinity of your partner. And so you let go of the egoism of trying to control people, you trying to control your partner trying to control you. Even if they're trying to control you, you don't get caught in that egoism. You leave, that's their stuff, that's not my stuff. And you don't try to control them, control their life, tell them what to do, how to live their life. You know, some men are caught up on how their women dress, etc. If you find there's a teaching In ancient Egyptian literature, there are teachings for advice for young people. And you don't find that in Western culture. That's one of the major problems of Western culture, is that they don't truly know how to develop young people. They figure it's done through from first to 12th grade and then graduating you're an adult. There is no real true advice for young people. One of these advices, if that's a word, is it tells the young man, and it applies to the young girl. When you see someone who is agreeable to you, you like her body, the way how she looks, she's well mannered and well, she's a mature, well mannered person who is calm in demeanor and relaxed in her countenance. If you like her, take her home to be your wife. But notice he didn't say if she sexually arouses you or if she's beautiful to you and you want to have babies with her, you take her home. No, she has to have other qualities. People have to have qualities. They have to have something there. There has to be something there. If she has gentleness of heart, if she has, and similarly, if for the young ladies, if you see a man who is agreeable to your gaze and he is gentle of demeanor and a cultured human being, and if he has a spiritual view of life, and you like him, well, approach him, take him home. But the point is that you're looking for qualities, you're looking for something beyond the mundane, beyond the physical appearance. And then while in the relationship, if it's not workable, then be mature enough to say it's not workable and go your separate ways, but you're going your separate ways, not in how it's done in Western culture, where everybody has to be angry because the relationship is ending and now you hate the person. That's immaturity. If people are incompatible, they discover they're incompatible. It should be an amicable separation, and they can still maintain the friendship if they want to. Or they can evolve the relationship to where they're not really thinking of themselves as a partnership anymore. They are partners, but they're really not thinking so they're allowing more freedom while at the same time maintaining their relationship. That's a mature way. Maintaining the monogamy of the relationship. But if your relationship is based upon spiritual values and both have bought into it, you have something serious to work with. You have something and it's hard in this culture to find people like that because of how the culture is and how people have become acculturated to Western culture and accepted certain values that are deleterious to normal human good relationships. You know that there's such thing as a Karens. You go to a store and the person don't like how you look, they start yelling at you, giving you a hard time. Yeah, Western culture is dysfunctional. And if you become acculturated to that, you will be dysfunctional. Yeah, people have to learn how to treat each other as human beings, how to how to live a life in which human beings actually get along. And you don't see that in Western. You see a lot of strife, a lot of arguing, a lot of acting out, a lot of egoism. And if you adapt those negative values in your relationship, then your relationship will be dysfunctional. But if your relationship is based upon purity, again, spiritual values, then you'll have a relationship in which you can actually grow as a human being, become more mature. And, how are you going to, in modern culture, how are you going to impart these values to your children so that they don't end up with a tyrant as a partner, or someone who is dysfunctional, someone who is highly traumatized that they can't or shouldn't be in a relationship. And you have to look for things. You have to look for qualities in people and not just jump on anything that you see because they like you or you like them or whatever. If there's going to be any dating going on, there should be vetting along with that dating. You're trying to find out where the person is coming from, what they want to do with life, etc. And if it's just the mundane stuff, then you know that's trouble. If you get into a relationship with them, how are you going to work around that? And so you have to find a way. And if you're in a relationship with someone who is not in the tradition or the teachings, as long as when it comes to your spiritual practice, they leave you alone, then you have something to work with. You have space to breathe. But if they're like, don't be lighting any candles or incense in my house, I don't want to see any statues of divinities and all of those gods and goddesses, I don't like them, don't bring them in here. That's not a workable situation. But if they leave you alone, if you can do your ritual, if you can burn your incense, your candles, whatever, then you can have some amicability, you can have some peace. If not in a relationship fully, at least peace within yourself. And that peace within yourself is moving towards the higher peace, which is the hetet, which is the unification of opposites, which is transcending gender and the polarity of genders. So you can be at rest, you can be at peace, you can be at calm, with or without a relationship. Some people want a relationship, they get into it, and then they want out. They find out that that's not what they really want. Because the relationship is not sufficient to achieve the mission of the soul. But then they come out of that relationship and try to find a new one. So whatever relationship you're in, you have to work through the difficulties of it as long as it's workable to bring you to a place of resolution of the issue, and more importantly, to bring you to a purity that culminates in an anointing, a divine anointing. Okay, so that'll be it for today. We're having a storm coming through, so we'll see what happens with AEM later. But anyway, things to think about for you, yourself, and how you want to approach this aspect of life. And take it seriously, because relationships are serious. If you get into a marriage with someone and you get a divorce, how the system is set up. The wife can take half your stuff and then take you for support. She can take you to court to take half your check every pay period, stuff like that. So relationships have a severe ramification. So if you find a good person, you have to stick it out. You have to work through the issues. If it's workable, some relationships, nothing can be done, and you have to part ways. So the point I'm trying to make is don't run from it just because there's difficulty. If you have another person there that you can work with and they're willing to put in the work and the effort, then work with it and come to a higher place within the relationship for both of you. But the point is that if the relationship is based upon spiritual values, then you truly have something behind you to help you work through and resolve the issue of relationship. You really have something there. If it's based upon spiritual values. Okay, so that will be it for today. Dua everyone. Precept.
It's
Dua, Precept.